the Aussie Open was over a week ago. I know for some people it's a story that has kind of come and gone as this ADD society is known to do. But to me, I think what we're witnessing with Naomi Osaka, she's been in 6 Grand Slams. She's already won 3 of them. I mean, walk me through her rise, her emergence. What have you seen from her that just makes her stand out from all the, because we always see every couple of years we hear about a new young tennis phenom. But what has Naomi done to stand out above the rest?
Well, really, what it's been and what you've seen in the last few months is maturity and growth, I think, on a personal and spiritual level. The talent was there. The hard work was there. We saw her 2018 when she won the U.S. Open, beating Serena, and then followed that right up with the Australian Open in 2019. And then there was something with the coaching there where her and her coach at the time parted ways. That was followed with a few lackluster for her results. But really what we've seen in the last 6, maybe more months, has been a lot of growth. And you can tell that just by when you see her interviews, before and after matches, her press conference, her on-court interviews. And I thought a lot of that stood out late summer last year when you saw her take a stand for social justice issues. You really started to see her be comfortable with her own voice. She realized that at the level that she's at now, she has a voice to speak on things not only in the women's tennis game, but also things off the court. And I think the two of them kind of go hand in hand, kind of symbiotic, for lack of a better term,
right?
Where you see that confidence to speak out socially, and you're seeing that confidence with how she carries herself on the tennis court. So I really think that it's, we got to remember she's very young.
Right.
But there's been this quick growth and this maturity, and we saw it throughout the last 2 weeks down in Melbourne. Just a lot of maturity. She seems a lot more comfortable in the spotlight. She seems a lot more aware of her place in the game right now, and that's obviously carried through with her results, winning the last 2 slams.
Yeah, it's now again. Look, I'm not you, so I can't break down game by game, break point by break point. But from watching her, especially in the final against Jenny or Jennifer Brady, it's a lot of forehands, crushing forehands, a lot of backhand winners. From a stroke game point of view, what is it about her game in terms of whether it's power, finesse, the angles that she chooses? Because a lot of this was reminding me of Serena in her prime, like the way she was going baseline to baseline and just the power, the strength. But she doesn't look it like Serena looked it. Like she looked like she would fuck you up. But Naomi just doesn't have. I guess it's more like Venus, where it's like you're unassumed. You don't know how strong Venus was because she didn't look strong because she was lean. Naomi doesn't look lean to me, but she doesn't look bruising like Serena. So what is it about the way that she hits the ball and the angles that she chooses that makes her so effective?
Well, I really, and it's true what you said. You don't necessarily look at her and see her as this imposing figure on the court, but with her strokes and some players are able to. It's really in the technique of the stroke. Some players are able to generate so much power, but I think another reason why opponents and people and viewers might be a little bit thrown off is because she doesn't have to play this all power, all the time game. She's got very good control of the stroke, equally as good on the forehand and backhand. And when she has the serve, sometimes problems with the toss, but other than that, when she's got the serve going, that sets the tone for her to control the point. And when she needs to break out the power, on a consistent basis, it's there for her. In that match in Australia with Serena, and I forget who was doing the broadcast, but on the ESPN, but they said, or the Four Letter Network,
There you
um,
go.
um, she had that ability when she needed to just kind of bully Serena around the court.
Right.
The ability to take the ball early and just be in control from early on in the point. And I think it was something that, obviously we're dealing with a much older Serena, but still a very capable Serena. And it was just, to see her be pushed around the way she's been pushing people around for 20 years was a little bit different for her. And, I know a lot of people kind of say it's like Serena playing herself. Not quite, but yes. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
someone who's able to, obviously Serena's played Venus for many years, and Venus has that power. But I also think with Osaka, with taking the ball early, controlling the points, and just being able to consistently put enough pace on those shots to keep Serena, back on her heels, you get knocked around for a couple of games with that kind of power, and you start to question your own strategy. You start to question, what you're going to do in that moment, and before you know it, you're down a set. So it's that ability, and again, it goes back to the previous point about the maturity, knowing when to
Right.
play certain shots in certain situations, knowing when you have your opponent on the ropes. And I think Naomi, as that match went on, being able to see that, okay, I can push her around at will.
Right.
That gives you the confidence to not rely on the same tactic every single time, because okay, well, I've also got this in my bag of tricks.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's ultimately what it came down to in that particular match, because, nobody competes as hard as Serena Williams, but, she was never really in that match against Osaka.
And going back into that match, like we've seen Serena have court rage. We've seen her wild out, bug out, get mad at umpires, whoever line judges, ball girls. We've seen her wig out on everyone, but it seemed to be a little different against Naomi. It was like, look, I don't want to get into the whole passing the torch thing. I think that's a little overblown because I don't think Serena's done by any stretch. But it seemed like she realized I got nothing. It's like she was trying to get mad at herself and make a shot and all this stuff. I was like, nah, ma, you just don't got no answers. Like, it's a wrap, and it's just a matter of time before Naomi gets you up out of here.
It was a frustration, and like you said, we've seen her, have her outbursts, but there was, there was no line judge or no chair umpire to yell at for any calls. It was an ass whooping.
Right.
Okay. And
Right.
yes, she did make a few errors, but a lot of that had to do with the pressure that Osaka was putting on her nonstop. And that pressure is not an unforced error to me. Is not just when I hit a shot so good that it causes you to make that one error in that point. That carries over sometimes to the next point and the point after that. Because when you are getting pushed around by an opponent the way Osaka was pushing Serena around, when you have these little openings, you put that much more pressure on yourself to jump on them because your opponent's not giving you anything. So the margin for error just gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And what you were seeing with Serena is she was getting little to no opportunities. And when she wasn't able to, convert, or she wasn't able to make these shots, she was clearly feeling the pressure. And it got to the point where even, it almost seemed like a pain and a humor on her face. Like what the hell do I have to do? Like, I've been
Right.
playing this game at a high level for 20 years, and I can't get a shot across the net, or I can't hit a winner against her. It's just knowing that the person on the other side of the net is better than you. It's their day, but at the same time, that warrior inside of her that's won 23 Grand Slam titles, she's not going to lay down.
At all.
So it's almost an unfair battle when you have that competitive spirit and that competitive heart, but you just don't have the firepower that day, you know. And I think that's really what you were seeing when she was, yelling at herself, make a shot," and she was kind of,
Yeah.
toward the end when she would make a few shots, she was kind of looking to the crowd and, putting her hands up like, "Oh, okay, I got one there," and it was just, listen, when
Yeah.
you're Serena got, kind of an idea to see um, what it's like, what she's been doing to other people for all of these
Word.
years. And she's
Word.
lost matches before, but this is different because this is somebody that she's potentially going to run into every time in those big spots that she still has left, and I'm sure that's still on her mind. We all know she's still got a little left in the tank. She can still win a major or two, but she is at the end of her career, and the one person that she's going to have to keep coming up against is the person she was playing that day, and I think that really played into those reactions, and it also forced her into a lot of errors um, in that semifinal.
Yeah, I love that you call it an ass whooping because that's exactly what it felt like watching it. And I was like, damn, she's making her run baseline to baseline, and we know Serena, no matter what. I mean, look, she looked to be in great shape, even bouncing back from the whole pregnancy thing and everything, the complications that came with that. She's done an amazing job just getting back into playing form, but the way that Naomi had her running, and I was like, yeah, she just don't. I don't think I've heard the analysis, and this is why I want you to be on, and this is why I think people should be checking for, your platform as it's coming soon. Ass whooping is the most perfect way to describe it because as someone that grew up watching tennis, played a little bit myself, but nothing too crazy. Just one summer in Orlando while my parents had a timeshare, but being able to learn from that and watch the games watch the matches when I came back to New York. That kind of an ass whooping, you really don't see that from Serena, and I think that's why we got the post match press conference where she was trying to, as you said, she was trying to use the unforced errors thing and kept blaming it on herself and things of that nature. But then as she kept getting pressed by the media and they kept bringing up Naomi, it was just kind of like, yeah, she just kind of had to break down and get up out of there.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. I want to go back to what you said about the right after the pregnancy. So after she gave birth to her daughter, she had been in four Grand Slam finals. She's lost all four. There was
Wow.
Wimbledon and the U.S. Open in both 2018 and 2019. She's lost all four of those matches in straight sets. Now,
Wow.
I would say the difference here is, and one of those was to Naomi Osaka. I'd say the difference here is, I think in all of those matches, she was still not in the best physical shape, which is, listen, I can't imagine what it's like to have a child.
Right.
But when you talk about, getting back into whatever kind of shape, but the kind of shape that you need to be in to even compete in the first round of a Grand Slam. So for her to
Mm-hmm.
have gotten, to four major finals, coming right back after
Amazing.
she wasn't all the way there physically, and I think it was just remarkable for her to win six matches in those tournaments, getting to the final. And each time she played Angelique Kerber, great player, in the Wimbledon 18 final. She played Osaka in the 18 U.S. Open final. She played world number two or world number three now, I think, Simona Halep in the
Mm-hmm.
Wimbledon final in
Mm-hmm.
19, and then Bianca Andreescu, who had a great run at the 2019 U.S. Open. All younger players, all players on the rise. Um, and with her not being in tip top physical shape,
Mm-hmm.
now keep in mind it tells you how great she is to be
For
in not
sure.
great shape and to be in four finals in those 2 years.
Right.
Um, and I think on the broadcast they mentioned that when she came down to Australia this year, this is the best shape she's been in since before she had her daughter.
Mm.
She was moving well. She looked better. She was moving extremely well. That fourth round match with Arina Sabalenka, I had circled because I had circled when they first released the draw because I said that could be a problem for Serena. Sabalenka had gotten up to 7 in the world, and she had won, I think, 2 or 3 straight tournaments to close out 2020. She's somebody to watch.
Okay.
Um, that was a tight match that went 3. Serena fought through, got through. I said, okay, that's a good one. I said, Halep's going to be tough in the quarterfinals. World number 2. She beat Serena in the 2019 Wimbledon final, and Serena beat her 3-3 with no problem.
Right.
And so, and I think this plays into the emotions you saw in the press conference with her coming down here in shape. Everyone going through all of this quarantining and with the traveling.
Exactly.
She's traveling with a 3-year-old, but she's in shape. And this really looked like a good chance for her to get that number 24, that 24th Grand Slam title. And when she got through the Halep match, it's hard for me to imagine that Serena and those in her camp didn't think, hey, we've really got a shot to do it here.
Word.
Except for she ran into the one person that even in her best physical conditioning can take her down, and that's Osaka. And I think that is what's going to be, or what could potentially be the problem going forward, getting to that 24th major. Because if she is in the shape that she was in Melbourne, if she can build off of that, stay in good shape, keep playing well, there's no reason to think she won't win a major. Well, there's one reason,
right.
And it's Naomi Osaka.
Man, that's. I'm talking with Agahzi Giorgis. He is a tennis analyst. He is a radio personality. He will be coming out with content soon, so make sure you follow him at Radio Agahz. I will make sure his Twitter information and IG information is in the podcast description. So check out the podcast description. The links to follow Agahzi Giorgis, my guest here on the Pick a Pop podcast, will be there in the link description. Man, what you just said is so telling, because I try to do some digging. Look, I prep for my guest. I make sure that my guest can't come on here and body me on my own podcast. But what you're saying is so telling, because there was a stat I saw floating around about Serena, and it said that she's won 31 or 32% of all. No, let me make sure I get it right. Of her Grand Slam appearances, she's won 31% of them. And as I led into this, and we have Martina Navratilova, she's won 10% of her Grand Slams, and Chris Everett, I think, was like 11%. Now we got Naomi at 50%. like how the fuck do we get who? Obviously, she's impactful. Obviously, she's become a cultural force, as you mentioned earlier. If Serena truly is on the way out, and from all intents and purposes, it looked like she is. I don't think she's done, but she's rounding third and heading home. How dominant, or what kind of run can Osaka go on? Like, can she go on a Serena-like run where Serena was seemingly winning every Grand Slam she entered? Like, what type of run can Osaka go on if Serena truly is on the way out?
Okay, so here's the thing. It's really difficult, even with when you see someone that plays the style that Naomi Osaka plays, and she's on top of the world. It's really difficult to say if anyone can go on a Serena-like run. I can remember, oh man, it might have been Wimbledon or Wimbledon in either 98 or 99. We're talking about a 16, 17-year-old Serena Williams. And I remember she lost early. Might have been in Australia, lost early. And I remember in an interview afterward, and she said, it's very disappointing because I really expected to win here. And I remember thinking, you're 17, you've barely played any major matches. But you know what? I
Right.
get it now.
Word.
I get it now. 33 Grand Slam finals later, having won 23 of them, I get it now.
Yeah.
Um, it's really hard uh, to say whether or not somebody will go on a run like that. When you talk about um, legends, I mean, for me, it's Martina. It's tough to do the whole Mount Rushmore thing, but
Right.
there's a five. There's Billie Jean King because of what she meant also off the court.
For
There's
sure.
Martina. There's Chris Evert. There's Steffi
No
and
doubt.
Serena. And then you have the trail off to Venus is only because she had to play Serena so many damn
Right.
times.
Exactly.
Venus Williams would have a trophy case, twice the size of what she had she not been playing Little Sister
Word.
all those times. And I always thought Steffi Graf was the greatest ever until Serena passed her on the Grand Slam list.
Mm.
And the reason for that, I said, you know what? If she can beat that number, she'll be the greatest. And Steffi won 22 majors with a slice backhand. She had a backhand to come through, but she hated
Right.
using it. If you
Right.
ever watch any of her matches, any match you watch, the commentators would make a big deal when she hit a straight backhand. She came through the ball or hit a topspin backhand because you didn't see it. It was
Mm.
like, a pitcher throwing the eephus pitch or something like that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
22 majors with a slice backhand. But then, Serena comes through and passes that number. She's won every major at least 3 times. It's just, it's tough. And then when you see, any time that she's ever been injured, it's for some players they never recover. But for her to come, she comes back, she wins. She's pregnant, she wins.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
let's not forget in 2017 when she beat Venus at the Australian Open, little Olympia was inside mommy's tummy.
Right.
Okay, she's a Grand Slam winner too.
Facts.
Um,
Yeah.
and then she's been open with how difficult the birth was. Serena was in
Hmm.
was in real trouble, almost died after childbirth.
Right.
Comes back. When did she have the baby? Late in 2017, and she's back in the Wimbledon final in 2018. Like that kind of stuff, even though it's not a win, that kind of stuff is unheard of.
Right.
This is on a plane going continent to continent with an infant and making the finals of majors
Yeah.
and having to, after you win a match, having to, go get a shower, maybe get some ice, maybe get some physical therapy, and then be a mom, and then get up in
Hmm.
the morning and then go practice, and then be a mom, and then practice again, and then get, some therapy, and then be a mom, and then have a match on center court the next day. So, I mean, there's a lot.
Incredible.
You could do a whole other show on where Serena and Venus came from and why that makes them so special. And
Hell yeah.
so I know I took the long road, but I don't know if we'll ever see that kind of story. But I think Naomi Osaka is in the very early stages of writing her story, which I think is going to be a very wonderful story. There's no reason she can't win, double-digit majors. She's been
Okay.
in she's won 4 Grand Slams now. She's only a hardcourt Grand Slam. She's got 2 U.S. Opens, 2 Australian Opens, and when she's gotten to the quarterfinals of a major, she wins it. I mean,
Mm.
yes, we've only got 4 majors to go by, but there's a reason they call them majors.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
It's different. It's different
Right.
when you're on those 4 courts. I think she can win all 4. She's got to work on her clay court game. I don't see why she won't be able to be better on grass. Grass is a faster surface, and with her power and the way the ball travels on a grass court, there's no reason that she shouldn't win that title a couple times.
Right.
Her an opponent's best shot to beat her is always going to be on clay at the French Open. But I definitely think that's something. She's very young. She's got the game. She's got the coaching in place. She seems to have a great head on her shoulders. which
Hmm.
is very important, especially in this game, because even though you have people in your box that you can look over to and yell at or say come on to, when you're on that tennis court, it's you and the other person. You got to figure it out,
Right.
So I definitely think she's somebody that could go on a major run, but I think it's unfair to her or to anyone coming up, um, to even try and take a guess if they could have a Serena like run, because when you're talking about Serena, you're talking about the greatest woman to ever play the game.
Yeah, it's that's such a great. I mean, you laid that out perfectly because I think with much like in other sports, everyone wants to know who's the next Jordan, who is going to be the next now is who's the next LeBron, and in other sports, baseball, who's going to be the next Jeter or who's going to be the next Ken Griffey or whoever. We're always looking for well now what, who's going to be the next one, and as someone who I can't lie, have fallen in and out of watching tennis. But when tennis has a star and like a legit star, not a flash in the pan, I lock in because I like to see elite level athletics all the time. I don't care the sport. That's just why sports has always been my thing because I like to see athleticism at its highest form and its highest peak. And what Naomi is doing, as you mentioned, is special. And the combinations of stroke games that she has is special. It's almost like if you took all the greats, well not all, but if you took the style of play of Venus and Serena where they play with power, playing the angles, but then she can attack the net. As you said, the serve is a little rocky at times. Her aces aren't as popping, but I just love how she has taken this game and she's become such an ambassador so early in this game. And as you mentioned, she has the maturity to handle that and being able to step out there and not be afraid to speak her mind. I think is so important, not only for just the game of tennis as a whole, but to growing the game. Because I'll say this from my point of view, and you can tell me if I'm wrong here. I think a lot was expected in terms of Venus and Serena opening the game to people that look like me and you and them. And I think that did happen a little bit, but certainly not to where we thought. Like how when Tiger Woods became a thing, we thought, oh, all the brothers going to play golf now. We're going to
Right.
be running golf soon. Same deal with tennis. Oh, Venus Serena. Oh, all the girls now going to be on playing, and we've seen a few. Sloane Stevens. We've seen a few, but we haven't really had that really strong influx. So to have Naomi there, looking how she looks, having the swag that she has, dating who she's dating, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, this is somebody we can, if you're from certain neighborhoods, you can lock on to. So am I wrong in that what we thought Venus and Serena's impact was going to be in our type of neighborhoods didn't really work out that way?
I think there's some truth to that. I think it has started to work out. I think it might have taken a little bit longer.
Okay.
I think you did mention Sloane Stevens, the
Mm-hmm.
2017 U.S. Open champion, and when she did win that title, she played another African American athlete, Madison Keys.
Yes, Madison. Yes.
Um, and now you have the emergence. Um, I don't want to go crazy because it's in sports we tend to put a lot of pressure on young athletes, but you have Coco Gauff now. Coming
Mm-hmm.
on. I was watching Coco a couple nights ago. She was down, I think, set in 4-2, and
Okay.
I was exhausted, and because they're still playing over in Adelaide, Australia, so it's
Copy.
I spent 2 weeks going up at 3 or 4 in the
Right.
morning for these matches. So Coco's down the other day, a set in 4-2, and I said I got to go to bed,
Yeah.
and I wake up, and the next day I'm looking. my phone and it's got the order of play for the next day, and it's, she's playing, I forget who, and I'm just like, wait a second, she's playing today, but didn't she look? And I go back and look, she came back to win that match.
Mm,
And it's not just that Serena has influenced young black girls or whatever. It's that you can see the influence right on the court. It's not just that they've been influenced to play the game or to have a certain style,
mm-hmm.
with forehand or power, whatever. You're seeing it up here. You're seeing the mental game. That's a 16-year-old girl,
Right. Right.
playing on a tour level. Now, mind you, she's already beaten Venus Williams in a Grand Slam. But this is a 16-year-old girl on the tennis court down a set and a break, and that mental toughness, in Australia, because, they have their shit somewhat together. They've got fans there.
Yeah.
So, she's playing in front of a crowd, and just to show that kind of mental toughness, she's also someone to watch. But again, being 16, long way to go.
Right.
There's no reason to rush it. Thankfully, she seems to have a good head on her shoulders. She's got a good support system with her parents. So, and because of those three that I just mentioned, I think you are seeing, and throw in Naomi Osaka, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
obviously are seeing the influence of the Williams sisters. I just think maybe it took a little longer.
Right.
Maybe we maybe we just had expectations that were, you know, fair, but maybe a little unreasonable to think that they would be, it would be as soon as we would have wanted. But I
Gotcha.
think it's definitely there. And you made a point earlier. You said you didn't want to use the expression "passing the torch," but it did kind of feel like that in Australia with Serena
Okay.
and
Okay.
Naomi. Naomi's been very open about the influence that Serena has had on her.
Mm-hmm.
The term you used earlier with me, Naomi's made sure to give Serena her flowers, and I think
Word.
when they asked her after them, one of the things she said was, she wants to play long enough for a young girl to say that to her,
Mm.
for a young girl to tell her that you influenced me.
Yeah.
So I think it's there. I think it's getting better. I follow a lot of these players on social media, and I saw Sloane Stevens. She seems to have taken an active role in promoting the game for young black girls as well.
Okay.
So I think that is also going to go back. That's to the Serena and Venus tree. So
Right.
as we're seeing, what blossoms later on, and then
Yeah.
after that also gets attributed back to Serena and Venus. So it's coming there,
Dope.
and it's coming thereafter.
That's so great to hear. And with how great the women's game is in regards to flourishing, and Naomi's become a star now, and we still have Serena hanging on. I don't know if this is true or not. So I'll lean to you on this. But the men's game just doesn't seem to have. Now again, the men's game is as dominant, as it's top heavy as probably ever, because I mean, growing up, and we're around the same age, like, to me it was Agassi and Sampras. I caught a little bit of McEnroe. I wasn't that locked in on tennis yet, but for me, that '90s era of tennis with Sampras, Agassi, Michael Chang, like those guys were the ones for me to like follow and kind of learn more about them. And now with the trio of Joker, Nadal, and Federer, I mean, these are elite level Hall of Fame, arguably Mount Rushmore type of players. But for some reason, I don't know if it's the whole American angle. I don't know, but it's for some reason, knowing that Joker is playing doesn't hit me the same as back in the day, 12, 13-year-old Sam D, knowing I could turn on channel 2 and know that Sampras or Agassi or Chang or whoever, or Mal Washington, a guy me and you talked about off air, somebody like that was hitting the hardcore. Like, so what is it in this dominant era of men's tennis? Probably one of the most dominant eras. I mean, you can answer that better than me. But this seemingly dominant era of men's tennis, how come the sizzle or the sport? I don't know if it's the four-letter network. The masses don't seem to really be on it like I think they should because of the dominance of Nadal, Federer, and Joker.
I think that's it right there. There's your main reason. I grew up again the tail end of the McEnroe Connors, and I
Mm-hmm.
was with Agassi was my guy in the whole career. Um, but back then on any given night, Chang could beat Agassi, Agassi could beat Chang, Chang could
Word.
beat Becker could beat Edberg, Edberg could beat Beck.
Becker, Boris Becker.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, and also, certain guys, certain top guys, you knew at certain Grand Slams weren't going to do well. So you were going to see, you had a chance to see them get beat, or you had
Right.
a chance to see them struggle and pull out a win. But you knew you were going to get something different. Like I knew at the French Open, okay, it's not going to be another dominant Pete Sampras tournament. Clay was never his surface. He was never
Mm-hmm.
ever, he got to the semis in '96, was never able to do any better than that. Now you have, a situation with let's just go with the top three: Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic. You know, all three of them have won all four majors, and the only reason that Federer and Djokovic only have one French Open each is because Nadal's won 13 of them.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and Federer benefited from the year '09 when Nadal was upset by Soderling, and Djokovic benefited from a Nadal injury. Um, but when you
Insane.
look, no one's ever dominated a tournament like that. But with the three of them being as dominant as they are, um, there are younger players that are coming up that are fun to watch. Um, it was hard to see last weekend with Medvedev against Djokovic because
Medvedev. Yep.
Djokovic was on a different level, and Medvedev couldn't figure out what to do to change that in that match. But tennis used to be when you hit 30, okay, you're on your way out.
Mm-hmm.
We saw Connors, when he was 39, make that iconic run, 91
Yes.
U.S.
Right.
Open semis. And then later on, we saw Agassi play until he was 36, getting to the U.S. Open final in 2005, age 35 with a bad back.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you started to see that trend, slightly starting to buck. And now you've got, Federer's 39, um, 39, 20 majors, and still going to compete for a couple more.
Right.
So what you have is a once in a lifetime three-headed monster that's been dominating the game for the last decade plus, and it's been a lot tougher to knock them off the throne. So
Mm-hmm.
perhaps we're not seeing the spotlight that we would like on some new faces, but it's really through no fault of their own. They've just come up against, a once in a lifetime triple headed monster that, despite age, they're just not ready to give up their respective thrones. To another point you made, I think a lot of it for us also has to do with the American slant on things.
Right.
We were spoiled in the '90s. We had
Oh
Agassi.
yeah.
We
Yeah.
went from McEnroe and Connors to Agassi, Courier, Sampras, and Chang.
Jim Courier. Yeah. Yeah.
All Grand Slam winners.
Right.
All guys you had to look out for, at the U.S. Open. You know what I mean? You put any of those names on the marquee, and you're gonna have a good night.
For sure. Yeah.
So I think a lot of it, the main part of it is just the dominance of the big three, um, and to a lesser degree, for us in this country, I think the last American male to win a major was Roddick in '03, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow. God
Um,
damn.
Yeah, we haven't had one
That's
since.
hella long, bro. Like
Yeah,
just that name, Andy Roddick, is like, wow, yeah. Remember, son? Like I don't even remember Roddick playing. Like he came and went with so much hype and fluff and bluster that it's like, oh yeah, Andy Roddick did play and he was successful to a certain extent, but not to the level that he was hyped to be.
yeah. I mean, not my favorite player, but I'll give him a little credit. He was a victim of his own temper sometimes, but he was also a
Mm,
victim of playing in the Roger Federer era.
for sure. Yes.
Uh,
Agreed.
that one particular Wimbledon match, Roddick should have won that match, and
Yes.
we all know it. But um, again, it goes back to the previous point about their dominance.
Right.
So, but I think you will see some changes in the men's game because there are a lot of young up and comers. Hopefully, we have some guys that get a chance to show their personality because personality will always sell the game.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
Personality was the reason, right next to his talent. Personality was a big reason Agassi was so popular. Tennis was
Image
so
is
stuffy.
everything, right? Image is
Images
everything.
it was a reason McEnroe was so popular. Who is this guy
Yeah.
with this wild hair and headband, and he's screaming at the line judge? You know
Word.
what I mean? But people couldn't get enough of him. So you'll see a lot more of that coming up.
And not to make everything about Serena, but I'm going to show you something, and hopefully the camera picks it up. This has been on my phone, and I don't know when it's going to ever leave my phone. But I have my wallpaper is a live wallpaper, and it's the greatest moment I think
Oh
in
my
all
goodness!
sports, and it is
Well,
movement now. When when Serena does the crip walk at Wimbledon,
at Wimbledon,
and Venus is cheering her on at the Olympics. I still firmly believe that moment doesn't get talked about enough. To see walk on center court at Wimbledon during the Olympics, sea walk. Like I don't think people. She fucking crip walked
she did.
at the at center court of Wimbledon after in the Olympics. I That to me was like, all right, you got it. Like there's no LeBron can win 30 championships. Jordan could come back and win another 5. No, Walter Payton could come out from the grave and get another 20,000 yards. No, it's you to have the balls to be in Wimbledon and say, "Nah, I'm gonna bring Compton to Wimbledon because they used to shit on us back in the day when we was young. The bees would fly all over because of the
Mhm.
braids and all. They would get mad at that. Now I'm gonna see walk on your fucking center court in the Olympics. Talk to me about that and just what's a swag filled moment. I can you think of a more swaggier moment from
Um,
Serena or anyone else in tennis?
on the spot, it's hard to think of anything close. I mean, it's like you said, bringing Compton to Wimbledon, and I mean,
Amazing.
what are they going to do? What are they going to do? What are they going to say to her?
Right, right, right.
At that point,
I
2012.
run this.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's her saying, "I run this. Y'all all here because of me. I'm a gangster. Sea walk on your shit. Fuck your
Listen,
center court."
when she walks out there, there's not a seat that's empty,
Right,
and you're witnessing greatness.
right.
You're not going to tell her she can't sea walk or
Do
back
whatever.
do whatever she wants. I mean, when you're good enough to win, 23 Grand Slams and 4 gold medals, you do what you want.
Hell yeah, hell
Who was
yeah.
it? Was it Future? You do what you want when you're popping.
Yes, there it is. Talk that shit. Yeah, yeah.
If ever there was, as the memes like to say nowadays. So let me see if I can do this right. If if you do what you want when you're popping was a meme.
Mm.
Was a person.
Mm.
Was a person. I screwed
Mm-hmm.
that up, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. No,
So
it's dog.
that's it.
I can't get over that. That moment meant so much, and I was just like, I'm not from Compton. I'm not from LA. but that shit just being in the culture, you just know
Oh, absolutely.
how egregious that fucking moment was,
Oh,
and
totally.
how great it was. I was like, oh yeah, she's it. Like, all right, yeah, you may have ran around with LeVar Arrington and Common and Drake. I'll look past all of that now that you see walk that center court. I can look past all of that.
It's funnier, especially because it was in England, because
Yes.
it was at Wimbledon, in a place where, to play tennis on the courts, you were required to wear all white. And, players used to have to, when you played on center court, when you walk on, you turn and you bow or curtsy for the women to the royal box when you enter and leave the court. So to go from that to, the best player in the world, a black girl from Compton, as you said, see walking on the court, and no one's going to say anything about it.
Amazing. I love that shit, man. And that's what kind of I won't lie to you. That kind of got me back into tennis a little bit. I was like, look, if she's sea walking at Wimbledon, okay, I need to tune back in. I need to figure out what's the schedule, what's the layout of the Grand Slams. Let me get back in. But as we wrap this up here, and obviously thank you for coming on with me and sharing your expertise and your knowledge with my audience. As I keep telling my audience, this is the type of person that I wanted to bring on, but I felt I was put in the box with the whole you got to have you got to talk basketball on your basketball podcast. This is why the podcast is transitioning to a all sports format, because I've been texting with Agahzi for years, and I've watched his knowledge of tennis be put on display on Twitter, Instagram for years. And I'm like, yo, if I ever get back into that all sports mode, Agahzi is my tennis guy. And it's not because he held me down way back when, it's because he knows his shit. And there's no way you haven't listened throughout this conversation and not realized that Agahzi Giorgis knows his shit when it comes to tennis. So if you have anything you want to leave my audience with in regards to what tennis means to you, why you think it's a viable sport to get into, why you think people who look like me and you should get involved, should keep up with it, please, the platform is yours. Talk your shit about why tennis means this much to you.
Tennis to me is a beautiful game. It's a game not just about competition. It's not just about strategy. I find tennis to be a lot. It's cheesy, but a lot like the battle that you go through in everyday life. It's what you're going up against or who you're going up against. How well you can get through that when you're going through the rough times, not just to give up, but to adjust on the fly, figure out what needs to change. And sometimes in life, we have to figure that out pretty quickly because, just like a tennis ball hit by Naomi Osaka, life comes at you really fast.
Hell yeah.
So um, I've always felt, even at my worst times, it's why I like to be on a tennis court, because sometimes just being out there and hitting uh, feels like and helps you kind of, or for me, sort through things. You have to be always present. You have to always pay attention to what you're doing. One shot directly affects the next. Just like one decision directly affects what happens to you next in life. So there's always been that cheesy and kind of strange metaphor with tennis and life to me. So it's meant the absolute world to me. I grew up watching it from a very young age. From when we didn't have cable during the
Mm-hmm.
week. During the week
Mm-hmm.
of a Grand Slam, I would have to read the results in the newspaper the next day,
Yep.
or if my mom let me stay up late, I would catch NBC's, 20-minute coverage between the news and Jay Leno or whatever, just to get a recap of
Uh-huh.
the day's action. Or
Yeah,
CBS.
yeah.
CBS had that same thing with the U.S. Open. That's what I would get. And then on the weekends, regular network television, I'd watch all day. It didn't matter if all the other kids were outside and they wanted me to come outside and play. I was sitting on the floor in the living room and I was watching. And don't let Agassi be playing because I wouldn't move.
Right.
Um, my friends used to call and leave messages. Oh, I guess Agassi's playing. That's why you're not answering. It was just it was just that, just glued to it, and it's why I developed such a love. It's why, I think I told you this. Not many people know, but I made a decision a long time ago that that's what I wanted my life to be. Was I wanted
Nice.
to be a professional tennis player. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. Um, Tennis is now, and especially when I was growing up, is a very expensive game to learn. And
Word.
I think the USTA has taken steps in America to try and make the game more accessible. It's something that every country's tennis organization is going to have to continue to work on to get more kids involved in the game, especially minority children.
Hmm.
I used to work double shifts when I was 17 just to pay for lessons
Wow.
and lessons at the racket club, and it never quite caught up. You never quite catch up to what you need to make, to what you need to do to be training and playing every day. And
Right.
when I would go to the club, you'd see the young kids there, and the dad's a surgeon or whatever. So you knew who was going to have those opportunities because it was such an expensive and elitist sport. It's changed a lot for the better. It still has a ways to go, but that's just a little bit about what it's meant to me my whole life. It's what it still means to me. It holds a big spot in my heart, and that's why we're doing this, and that's why I'm looking forward to putting out some content. It'll be out really soon. I appreciate you bringing me on. I appreciate you pushing me. Um, yeah, so I'm really looking forward to doing this on a regular basis, and I promise this will be out. It won't be too long.
Please go check him out at Radio Agahzi. His socials are in the podcast description below. Agahzi Giorgis, he is a friend. He is a ally. He is a person that I feel needs a platform, deserves a platform, and will body a platform. And thankfully, he's going to create that platform. And I'm going to be here to support it. And I want you all to go out there and support it as well. I know you want bullshit about LeBron versus Jordan or stuff like that, or how good is Luca and all that type. But there's other conversations that can be had, and that's why I'm rebranding the podcast, because I could bring on someone like Agahzi and we could talk for about an hour about tennis, something that y'all probably didn't think two black men can sit down and have a real good conversation about tennis. So I want to thank Agahzi for coming on my platform. I look forward to at some point in the near future coming on his platform and continuing to have these conversations. And look, this ain't going to be the last time. I felt he did really well here. I love the conversation we've had, and I look forward to having more and more opportunities to do this. So Agahzi Georges at Radio Agahzi on Twitter, IG. The link for all of those is in the description. Thank you so much, brother. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate you having me.